the Rangers lost the AL West crown on the final day of the season. But despite George Kirby's gym, the most annoying thing they might have had to face all day was the fun police. We're talking about all that and more, and where the Rangers are going in the playoffs on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, covering this team for 10 seasons, including all 5 as the founder and host of Locked On Rangers. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen every single day. If not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. And the best way you can help grow the show is to subscribe and comment only if you're a Rangers fan or if you're not a jerk. Honestly, let's just keep that as the rule. Just don't be a jerk. Don't be annoying, and put maybe one brain cell into the thoughts you are commenting below. Your Rangers are 90-72. It's Sunday, October 1st, and they have lost the AL West because of a tiebreaker with the Houston Astros. That tiebreaker is the Astros beat them more often than the Rangers beat them this season. That's what it came down to, unfortunately. And it also came down to, for some people, it's because the Rangers had the audacity to celebrate making a playoff spot last night. We're going to get into that in just a second. But first, this episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, last night when the Rangers beat the Mariners, they eliminated the Mariners from the playoffs and secured their own spot in the playoffs. So, last night, after the win, the Rangers had a clubhouse celebration because that's what you do when you make the playoffs. And today, they lost 1-0 in an offensive day that was not good. Just not great. 2 hits by Evan Carter and 2 hits by everybody else. 3 combined bases for Evan Carter and 2 for everybody else. 0 walks drawn, 11 strikeouts, and honestly, just a masterful performance from George Kirby. Like, the hat tip, surprised he went 6 innings and threw 75 pitches, but the Mariners were feeling spiteful and the Rangers offense was feeling helpless. It was incredibly frustrating to watch the Mariners actually try, and they did end up taking out their stars in J.P. Crawford and Julio Rodriguez once they had a 1-0 lead, because that's all it took, because even though George Kirby was throwing a Herculean effort, Dane Dunning threw a masterful performance. The only run given up in this one was on a weird play to first base with the bases loaded. Martin Perez came in to get a ground ball double play, and he got his ground ball to Nathaniel Lowe. The ball took him to first base, so he stepped on the bag, made the throw home. Jonah Heim couldn't quite get the tag down to get the slow runner at the plate. That was 1 run, and unfortunately, that was enough for the Texas Rangers. Martin Perez ended up throwing 3 2/3 innings of scoreless baseball. The only base runner that he gave up was a hit by pitch. He had 4 strikeouts, including his 1,000th of his career. Congratulations to Martin Perez. Congrats to Dane Dunning, who honestly threw a fantastic game in this one. The walk, I believe that was the run that was scored, or was one of the ones that helped load the bases. And a very inconsistent strike zone yet again. I mean, it's the same old story. I mean, George Kirby got a really big zone, and Dane Dunning did not get a big zone, and neither did Martin Perez. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Jonah Heim's pitch framing isn't nearly as good. I had a discussion with Grant Schiller about that and how his wrist isn't as strong, and so he can't frame pitches as well. Cal Raleigh is a fantastic pitch framer, so that's part of the reason why the Mariners were getting a lot of generous strike calls all weekend long. And it seems like Jonah Heim, with that wrist injury to his catching wrist, maybe he's not as able to frame pitches. But the Rangers lost this one, and they lost the division, and they celebrated last night for about 30 minutes. And a lot of people went on to Twitter.com and started running their mouths of, the Rangers had to celebrate last night. How dare they celebrate making the playoffs for the first time since 2016? They should have been sad. They should have been gone home immediately and followed asleep. And you know what? What if they did that and they still showed up and got blanked by George Kirby and lost 1-0 in this stupid game that is just the epitome of the season of that's the way baseball go. Would you want them to celebrate then? Would you feel good celebrating losing the division title on the last day? I don't think so. Maybe you would, but I sure wouldn't. And it's a whole philosophical thing. You've got to celebrate the wins. This team has been terrible. Absolutely terrible for years now. Years. And they only just committed to the rebuild halfway through 2020. They still thought they were competing in the start of 2020. And then Corey Kluber goes down with an injury, and everything flies off the rails because of a couple of grand slams and Chris Woodward comments to the San Diego Padres. And they are lucky that Slam Diego happened to them, because otherwise they would have kept trying for 2021 with that offense in that state. And they didn't. They tore it down, and the last 2 years have been incredibly painful. And not to mention the years of mid before that. 2019, first year of this podcast, fun, scrappy team, ended up being absolutely mid. 2018, Adrian Beltre rides off in the sunset on a mid Rangers team. 2017, mid. Again, after getting embarrassed by the Blue Jays the year before. Twice. 2 years in a row in the playoffs. And this team made the postseason. They should celebrate. After all the garbage they have gone through, after all the injuries to almost all of your all-stars outside of Marcus Semien, this team's going to the playoffs. They won 90 games. They lost 94 last year. Do you know how rare it is for a team to go from 94 losses to 90 wins? And oh, by the way, the other teams in their division were the defending world champions who finally got a ring without an asterisk on it. Unsincere congratulations on that. Oh, and the Mariners, who have the best pitching staff in all of freaking baseball, and one of the more electric stars in the sport in Julio Rodriguez, and occasionally some other hitters that do some things sometimes. But it doesn't really matter because they're winning games 1-0 all the time, because you got freaking George Kirby you can throw out there as your number 2 or 3 starter even. And the Rangers eliminated the Mariners. They tied in record with the Astros after missing 2 months of Corey Seager, who was the best position player in all of baseball in the American League, and Marcus Semien just being there, being consistent. They lost almost all of the season from Jacob deGrom, the best pitcher in baseball. They lost 6 weeks, maybe closer to 8 weeks, it felt like, from Nathan Eovaldi. He is still not completely right. They also lost time from Jonah Heim, from Adolis Garcia, from Josh Young, and they are still here in the freaking playoffs. And almost all of those injuries overlapped. This team deserves to be here. They deserve to be celebrated. They deserve to feel happy when they do good things. You, listener, you deserve to feel happy when you do good things, when your sports team does good things. Why are we questioning this? Why are we questioning joy? I mean, it's a baseball season. Did we all not just watch this team lose 94 games last year? And you're going to tell me that they should have been angry, gone to bed mad because they had one more game left to do? No, they made the playoffs. The job is done. This is a successful season. Now, you would like them to have won the AL West. Yeah, obviously, I'm kind of pissed about that. And obviously, it's not a great way to end the regular season on a George Kirby gem and an offensive nothing burger. But hey, it happens. You're in the dance. The Mariners aren't. You are going to the postseason. And oh, by the way, the Rangers are going to be the second wildcard team, so they don't have to face their daddies until the ALCS at best, which that's assuming that the Astros win their playoff game or playoff games, and the Rangers win 2 rounds, which, again, might feel like a long shot after the way they kind of slumped their way into the playoffs. But hey, they're in the dance. They had a great season. This was a great season. A lot of things went really right for the Rangers, and they are playing in the playoffs, which are such a crapshoot. As a fan of this organization, do I need to tell you how much of a crapshoot they are? The best team doesn't always win. Sometimes it's just the hot team, or some mucky team, or a team with Bruce Bochy sprinkling some magic pixie dust on everybody and getting them to 3 World Series titles. I mean, sometimes that's how it happens. Right now, the Rangers have an incredible offense. They have really good starting pitchers. If Nathan Eovaldi looks as good, if his stuff looks as good as it did in Seattle against the Tampa Bay Rays, that's a great sign for the Rangers. If Jordan Montgomery looks like the ace that the Rangers traded for, that's a great sign for the Rangers. The Rangers have a closer now that you feel decently confident in Jose Leclerc. you got some other guys who are looking pretty nasty too. Jonathan Hernandez, looking pretty nasty. I mean, Martin Perez, having some great outings. Dane Dunning, looking great. Like, this is a team that should celebrate its victories. And because they spent 30 minutes popping champagne because they made the playoffs, that is not the reason they lost 1-0 today. And if you want to sit there and complain about a team feeling joy, just look inward and celebrate your own wins as well as your favorite team's wins, because they're not always going to get into the playoffs. It's not always going to happen like that. And I don't know about you, but I would much rather feel comfortable celebrating every single win like I won the dang World Series, as opposed to nitpicking and sitting there in hindsight. That's just me. You are, of course, free to feel however you like. Coming up, we're going to look a little bit more at this game, about what the Rangers have left to do, and if this actually might be a blessing in disguise of them being in the wild card round. But first, this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry about buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals and all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show up total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without all those annoying hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. Gametime has deals on tickets right now up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. It's the best place to find last-minute tickets. So, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Shout out to the everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll have Grant Schiller on, and we'll talk a little bit about this Rangers season as a whole, and a look ahead at this series with the Rays. The Rangers take on the Tampa Bay Rays in the wild card round this week. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, while the Rangers had their celebrations, the Astros apparently had a more reserved celebration, which makes them better people and smarter and wiser and all that nonsense. And that's why the Astros triumphed today, because they're such mental giants, because maybe they drank slightly less champagne or were less happy about just clinching a postseason berth as opposed to wanting to win the West. Meanwhile, here's what their competition threw out as their lineup. Jordan Lawler, Dallas native, absolute folk villain at this point to the Texas Rangers. He was their leadoff hitter. And you know what his stats are for the year? He's hitting 129 with a 335 OPS. Their leadoff hitter in a game that mattered. The Diamondbacks could have went and been the second wildcard team. Instead, they're the third wildcard team. And here they throw out a guy who on the first, it took 2 pitches for the Astros to take a 2-0 lead. And the defense was absolutely abominable. I don't know who this Mr. McCarthy guy is in right field. Jake McCarthy. Never heard of him. Made literally the worst defensive play I think I've ever seen a right fielder make. It was a routine fly ball to him hit by Kyle Tucker, and he just straight up dropped it. And somehow in dropping it, it went around to the wall. Like, it was basically a pretty easy routine fly ball. Maybe it falls and it's a single, but then it gets behind him to the wall, and he takes his sweet freaking time going and getting that baseball, and then he throws it in to Jordan Lawler at shortstop. And meanwhile, Kyle Tucker is running all the way home in what was originally somehow ruled an inside the park home run, and Jordan Lawler just doesn't throw the ball home. Like, what are you doing? I get resting your stars to get them healthy for the postseason, but this was an abomination. This was not a major league team being fielded that did not care. This is so utterly embarrassing for the Diamondbacks, and I hope they get swept for their crimes against baseball. They did absolutely nothing against this Astros team, and the Astros get to make out like they're, some mental giants for facing this team, for beating this team. Are you kidding me? Fool yourselves much? God, I swear, Astros fans and the fanboys in the media that act like they're impartial journalists, even though they're tweeting like rabid fans, just absolutely wild behavior, they are still so obsessed with the Rangers. And do you know how little I would care about the Houston Astros if my team had been to allegedly 7 straight ALCSs and allegedly won 2 World Series titles, and my rival had never won a World Series title and had been terrible since 2016? I wouldn't care at all. They are still so obsessed with the Rangers. Like, go away. Go live your life. Clearly it's not fulfilling, so you have to go fill some hole and tweeting, update, 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 for tweets from 6 months ago that you bookmark because you have no life and this is all you do. Honestly, it's the most brain-dead behavior I've seen in human beings, is just finding a tweet from months ago of people saying, the Rangers are actually a good team, and they're atop the AL West. And at the end of the year, they didn't win the AL West. And just being like, update? Have one original thought in your brain. Houston Astros Twitter, I mean, come on. At least get creative with it. And not even doing that. And I know that they're going to be in the comments of this YouTube video saying, update, cry, wah. And I'm not mad. I'm not mad at them. I pity them. Honestly, what a sad existence that is what brings you joy. Like, come on, grow up. Your team won a World Series last year, and you care about the team that is coming off a 94-loss season that you barely eked out an AL West title against? I mean, come on. It's honestly hilarious how obsessed with everybody else they are. Literally the most insecure people I think I've ever met is Astros Twitter. It is so insane and sad. Honestly, my goodness, I'm just so sick of it. I thought I'd get more of it, but at this point, maybe they're waiting till tomorrow or waiting till the Rangers are eliminated for more of their receipts, cry, or maybe I've already blocked and muted enough of them on Twitter that I'm not hearing them. But honestly, a little disappointed in their effort, and I am definitely, I'm not going to lie, I'm pulling my own receipts for the Astros, but that's because my team hasn't won a World Series, and I'm going to enjoy your downfall a whole lot more than you should enjoy mine, because my team has been bad for a while. So them continuing to be bad is not surprising. It is not the same when the script is flipped. Like, honestly, if the Rangers, when the Rangers win a World Series at some point, dear God, please, at some point in my lifetime, win a World Series, Rangers, I'm going to stop caring at all about what any of my opposing rival fan bases feel. I won't care at all, because I'll just say my team won a ring, and I don't have to listen to any of you a-holes ever again. And it wouldn't matter. But no, somehow the team that has the most success recently and the most cheating scandals recently, the most embarrassing getting swept at home by the freaking Royals recently, is still obsessed with the Texas Rangers for whatever reason. I don't understand it. I pity them, honestly. But hey, congratulations on your update tweet and your AL West crown. You really totally earned it against a real baseball team. My goodness. Coming up, we're going to look at the Rays and why actually not winning the AL West might end up being good for the Rangers and bad for the Astros. What? We're going to talk about that in just a second. First, this word from our sponsors. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On Wednesday's show, I'll be talking about Game 1 of this wildcard series against Tampa Bay. The Rangers take on the Rays this week and catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, the Texas Rangers will have one day to take a 6-hour flight to Tampa Bay to play at the Trop, a best-of-3 series against the, I believe, now 100-win Tampa Bay, 99-win Tampa Bay Rays, which is not exactly an ideal draw. Or is it? Now, this Rays team is incredibly good. They started 13-0, and it looked like they were going to run away with the AL East. But unfortunately for them, the Baltimore Orioles were just really freaking good all year long. And if the Rangers do take 2 out of 3, against these Rays, that's who they'll be facing in the ALDS, which is going to be a tough matchup. But the Rangers have won the season series against the Rays. They have won it 4-2. They won one game in Tampa Bay, and then they swept them at home in the middle of the worst funk of the season for the Rays. I don't know exactly how indicative of how this is going to go that is, but it is a nice little feather in the cap for these Texas Rangers. When the Rangers last faced off against this team, they did not have Jordan Montgomery on this team, who's probably either the Game 1 or Game 2 starter at this point. But the Rays did light up a couple of lefties that the Rangers had in that series in Tampa Bay. Nathaniel was on the hill, the only game the Rangers did win in that series. So maybe that's good news for them that he's either going to be starting Game 1 or Game 2. Not entirely sure how they're going to shake out this rotation, but I'm pretty darn sure I know who Game 1 and Game 2 starters are. Maybe Dane Dunning will start Game 3 since he pitched on short rest in this one. Maybe he'll be lined up on regular rest for that. Or maybe they're going to throw Andrew Heaney. I don't think that's going to be a great matchup, but it seems like it'll be an all-hands-on-deck situation. Or maybe by then, Max Scherzer will be ready. I'm not really banking on that until I have something definite about Max Scherzer coming back. But this was a different team back then. This is a good team. And for the Rangers, they unfortunately finished with a 40-41 record on the road. This game could have decided whether this last game decided whether they're going to be a team with a winning record on the road or a losing record. Unfortunately, it is a losing record. And the Rangers really could have used the AL West crown because they are so dang good at home. But the Astros are not good at home. They are, for whatever reason, 39-42 at home in Houston, which makes no sense. They had a sweep in September at home against the Royals. They were also swept at home against the hapless Yankees at the beginning of this month. And it's just things have not gone well for them in Houston. I don't know what the deal is there. Maybe there's some, maybe their cameras are malfunctioning at home, but they're working on the road. I don't know. Maybe there's just, I honestly don't know what it is. But it has been a thing for them all season. And the Rangers probably could have used a little bit of rest. But is rest really all that helpful? The Rangers starters are all set up for playing in Game 1 and Game 2 of this wild card series on Tuesday and Wednesday. They do have the travel day. It is a long flight, it is as far as you can have two major league teams, is Seattle and Tampa Bay. Real bummer on that one that it couldn't be, somewhat closer, and that Seattle is so incredibly far away from literally every major league team. But I digress. The Rays are coming from Canada, so it's not exactly a short flight back home for them either. But we've seen in this new format with this wild card series and teams that get the top two spots being, having those 5 days off, that sometimes rust can really set in. I mean, look who made it to the World Series from the National League last year. Look who got upset early. It was those top two seeds. The Dodgers and the Braves were upset by the two teams that played in the NLCS, the Phillies and the Padres, two young upstart wildcard teams that made their way into the postseason by the skin of their teeth and then did some real damage once they got there. Heck, the Phillies were 2 wins away from winning a World Series last year. And that's because they got hot. And, well, heading into this series against Seattle, the Rangers were incredibly hot. The offense was clicking on all cylinders. It feels like the bullpen is the most trustworthy it's been. I know they did have that blown late lead on Thursday where, again, if that doesn't happen, the Rangers maybe win the AL West, or maybe they don't go as hard on Saturday and Sunday in terms of who they pitched and how they pitched them or whatever. I don't know. Maybe things turn out different. There's so many ifs, ands, or maybes scenarios with how this team lost so many different one-run games, blew so many leads that it will just make you sad and angry for nothing to think about it, because you can't undo the past, unfortunately. If you could, I would have undone a few things, certainly in 2011, certainly in 2012 as well, and maybe in 2015 and 16 and 2010 as well, but you can't. Those things happened. The season shook out how it did. You're a wild card team now. Make the most of it. But this team can get as hot as anyone. This lineup can get as hot as anyone, despite getting blanked by George Kirby. That's not fun. That's not fun at all. But you're going to see a lot more George Kirby-like pitchers in this playoffs, as in very good pitchers. It's going to be Tyler Glass now throwing in the first game of this series. I'm pretty darn sure, and I think it's going to be Zach Eflin. The Rangers dodged a bullet by not having to face Shane McClanahan, who was absolutely incredible against them, and the times that he faced them, like just absolutely incredible. Maybe it'll be Zach Littell, former Ranger great Zach Littell. I don't know how the heck the Rays took Zach Littell and made him amazing, but that's just kind of what they do, is they take these guys who, couldn't crack the Rangers bullpen this year, and they turned him into a starting pitcher and made him amazing because, of course they did. I mean, they did the same thing with Jeffrey Springs. Jeffrey Springs had a 0.56 ERA in his 3 starts before he went down with a season-ending injury. I mean, I know the Rangers have been brutally beat up by injuries, but the Rays, man, I mean, my goodness. Jason Adams on the 15-day IL. Drew Rasmussen was amazing for them for 8 starts, and he's done for the season. I mean, Shane McClanahan, done for the year. Garrett Clevenger, also done for the year. They also have quite a few hitters on the IL. Brandon Lowe, Jose Siri, Luke Raley, and also Wander Franco in that whole situation. He's not playing, and he's probably never playing a Major League Baseball game ever again. But this is still a really dangerous team. They have Yandy Diaz, who won a batting title by sitting on the final freaking day of the season like a coward, and Corey Seager could not get a hit or 2 hits or a hit and a walk, because that's what it would have taken to win the batting title. He lost that on the final day of the season as well. Incredibly frustrating for him and for the Rangers to have that double whammy hit you at the end of the season. But that's where you are. You live with what you got. And right now, the Rangers have all of their hitters that are good healthy, or healthy enough. They are at least on the field. I won't say that everybody is particularly healthy. Corey Seager still feels like he's dealing with that hit by pitch, a couple of different hit by pitches in the last week of the season, one against the Angels and one against the freaking Mariners. So incredibly rude of them to hit Corey Seager, the MVP runner-up to Shohei Ohtani, which should just be the MVP, because there should be another award for Shohei Ohtani, because he's literally not human, and what he does should not be compared to other human beings. But I digress. This is a tough matchup for the Rangers, a very, very good team, and it's going to really piss me off watching Pete Fairbanks close out a game against the Rangers. It's just going to make me real mad. I'm already preemptively mad about it. Oh, and another former Ranger great is in this bullpen. Yeah, 36-year-old Jake Diekman, who had looked like he had been washed for many years. Well, he's thrown 45 innings for the Rays this year, 50 games, a 2.18 ERA. Because of course. He had a 7.94 ERA with the White Sox this year in 13 games. And, of course, he comes to Tampa Bay and has his lowest ERA he's had in a single season since 21 games of a .42 ERA in 2020. And he really hasn't been this good since 2017 in Texas. He just has not been this good, and of course the Rays resurrect him as well. But the Rays have blown their fair share of late leads. They have had some issues with their offense being consistent as well. They have had some issues with their starting pitchers. They are not an infallible team by any means. They had an incredibly bad stretch in July. They had a not great stretch in August, but hey, here they are, still standing. A 99-win team that has to play a wild card game, a best-of-3 series, and literally anything can happen in this month. Actually, I take that back. They had a really good August. I mixed up my month. July, they were 8-16. That's when the Rangers faced them and swept them. They were in a bad way there. But the month of September, 16-11, even without starting their stars, they were able to take, I believe, at least 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays in Toronto. Maybe it was all 3. I can't remember entirely. But they were able to take it to Toronto in this final game of the season. They did not make it close. They obliterated them with what was basically their backup lineup. That's a scary offense that can go toe-to-toe with the Rangers, and a scary bullpen and a scary starting staff. But you know what? Doesn't matter. Because the last time the Rangers faced the Rays in the playoffs, they went to a World Series. And the time before that, when they faced the Rays in the playoffs, they went to a World Series. So, are the Rangers going to go 3 for 3 and going to the World Series when they face the Rays, and being undefeated when they face either the Yankees or the Blue Jays? Man, the Rangers really just face a lot of AL East teams in the first round of the playoffs. When can the Rangers face like the Twins or something in the first round of the playoffs? That would be nice. That would be very nice. But alas, that's not the straw that the Rangers drew. They do not get to sit on their hands and rest and heal and play at home because they lost this division on the final day. And it was not because they were celebrating too hard. Again, enjoy your wins when you have them. This team is primed to go on a deep run. They are an incredibly talented team. This is a team with very good starting pitching, with two guys up the middle worth 7 WAR each that you paid $500 million. That was a freaking bargain for both those guys. You have Adolis Garcia, who is unfortunately 1 home run shy of 40 this year, but still had a phenomenal season. You got Nate Eovaldi, who was incredible the first half of the season. Looks like his stuff is back, so maybe he'll be an absolute monster in the postseason. He's got plenty of postseason experience. Jordan Montgomery has some postseason experience. Mitch Garver is ready to do some damage in the playoffs. So is Leo Taveras. So is Josh Young. So is Mitch Garver. Everybody in this lineup is ready. And you don't think Nathaniel Lowe, who was traded by this team, who was not given an opportunity by this team, you think he doesn't want to show up the Tampa Bay Rays? This guy's been hitting the ball incredibly hard. He's been getting some real bad bounces. I think he is going to have a big series. And you think he doesn't want to show up his little brother? You think he wants to get beat by his little brother? Absolutely not. Nathaniel Lowe has got all the motivation in the world. I hope, I pray that he is going to have a phenomenal series. These Rangers are going to take 2 out of 3. Then they're going to take 3 out of 5 against the Orioles. Then they're going to take 4 out of 7 against whoever the heck they face in the ALCS and win the whole freaking thing. Why not? Now is the time for some irrational confidence. I'm going to enjoy the ride, whether they make it to the World Series, whether they win a single postseason game or not. This has been an incredibly fun season with some very high highs, some very low lows. And when those high highs come, I really hope that you all take the time to enjoy the absolute crap out of them. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy Texas Rangers playoff baseball.